You're listening to Back Tackle. Join Michael O'Reilly of Back Chat and Sean Hussey of Tackling Sport as they join forces to create a fortnightly collaboration called Back Tackle. Back Tackle with Michael O'Reilly and Sean Hussey is your one-stop shop for entertainment, local and international news coverage from a unique perspective. Join the conversation on Instagram at back.chatpodcast and at Tackling Sport, and follow our YouTube channels. But for now, you're listening to Michael and Sean of Back Tackle.
Hello and welcome back to Back Tackle. Joined with me is Tackling Sport's very own Sean Hussey.
How's it going?
Today we have a packed show full of news, chats, and of course...
2 news, 1 lie.
Anyway, Sean, how have you been?
Yeah, all good. I suppose getting closer to Christmas, the old Christmas cheer is probably coming in and a lot of people, and I suppose it's starting to kind of kick in how long a year it's been to think that, you know, kind of the last times maybe you were out could have been in and around Christmas and the New Year, and it's been 9 months or so and we're still talking about this, but there seems to be hope with the vaccine and hopefully for 2021.
Yeah, and an Irish woman getting the first vaccine. That was a bit mad, wasn't it, to see that 90-year-old Irish woman?
Yeah, I saw that, yeah, from Enniskillen and from Anna, yeah. So I think they're hardy enough up there anyway.
Yeah, I'd say they're immune anyway. Have you been out to get a pint yet since the lockdown has been opened back up?
No. I went for dinner with my uncle and my dad out in Malahide into Gibney's, but I was driving, so I didn't have a pint. But
was it weird to even be inside eating?
Yeah, it did. It felt a bit odd because it kind of feels normal because you're sitting at a table, especially because we were eating food, but you kind of see other people sitting down, so kind of you forget because you only need to wear a mask if you're going to the bathroom or you're walking around, and there's no ordering from the bar. So yeah, it's a bit odd, but I suppose it's good that businesses can open for the festive season.
That's it. And are you still swimming every day? Have you given up?
Still swimming, yeah. I did 200 there this week, so
200 which? Laps of Ireland?
200 days.
You hit 200 days. Congratulations. So are you gonna do the dip on Christmas Day then?
Well, see, a lot of people, it's actually funny, a lot of regular swimmers, they say they swim 364 days a year and they don't swim on Christmas Day because it's too busy. Because so many part-time people come down for a swim. So that's what a lot of people say. So I don't know what I'm going to do. But no, it's definitely getting a lot colder. So I don't know, I'll have to reassess.
Reassess the situation, yeah. No, the last time I was there, it was absolutely freezing. And I'm kind of gunning for the next one or maybe February because oh my god, that was the coldest one, and that was about like mid-November. It's far too cold. What did you make of the Love Ireland fiasco, the special? Because you were in the background, you were in the the backstage part of getting that set up, so I suppose people want to know what you thought of that.
It was all a bit mad. Look, I think everyone's probably got what they wanted to out of the whole thing. Everyone's got their followers and got their social media rise and all this, and probably will help them going forward. It was just like you could tell it was just such a shit show the way it finished and how everything like happened, and the finals 3 days after they said there was a vote off and all. Like it was all like I said, I got the idea. Well, obviously it was a copyrighted idea, but fair play to them. They tried to do something. But no, it was good entertainment for the first few weeks, and then it started getting a bit PC mad, and everyone was wanting each other out, and you kind of lose that because like you kind of want to see the same people rather than new faces come in the whole time. But that's what I thought, anyway.
Yeah, no, I think by the end it was like a crash and burn scenario where it was like a ship that was sailing right into the eye of a storm. And even by the end of it, the night of the final was when it all kicked off on Back Tackle, the Love Ireland special. And like I had a live kind of Instagram interview with Maya and then Dan. And like 10 minutes into Maya's one, she was like, "Oh, we forgot to save the IGTV, so we've got to go back and do the Zoom again, the final." Like, and I was thinking, how do you forget to record it or whatever the tech? Like, it got to a stage where it was just like, this really is, amateur stuff.
Amateur hour, yeah.
Amateur hour, yeah.
Well, I just like like I understood what they were trying to get, but I think there was like a few kind of, like we said in a couple of weeks ago, there was a few sort of issues that they didn't iron out, and they got rid of one person and they didn't get rid of another for the same thing. And, I think like, you don't want to speak about a phantom show for a while, but everyone got their few bits out of it, I think.
Yeah, I actually think everyone, even though it ended quite poorly, everyone who went in came out with a little bit more of what they desired, in the first place. Realistically, you go on that to make a career for yourself. Like, you look, like the headline in, I think it was it mirror.co.uk yesterday in entertainment news, was Molly May and was wearing a 500-pound bikini on holidays with Tommy Fury. I mean, that, like, they were Love Island, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. They've made a career, like a years long career, out of a show that goes on for 3 weeks. You know what I mean? So, or however long it does go on for. But the magnitude of it is insane.
Yeah, look, I think sometimes it can be uncontrollable, all that social media, and like people go on it probably for the right reasons, to like grow their followers and all. But I think it can have. Well, you look at what's happened with the suicides that have come from it, and I think it's just the same in modern society. You look at every sport game or every interview someone does, and there's always a couple of bad comments. I suppose it's about how you prepare people to react to them, and if someone like comments on you and doesn't know you, and you're playing a football match, or you're doing a concert and you miss a note or say something. I think people are so fearful in the modern world of one small mistake and to ruin your career and sort of change your legacy. So I think people are just so monotoned and robotic now to just be themselves in a certain group of people, and then I suppose when they're interviewed on TV, you try and put out a different persona and try not to say anything that is going to affect you.
Yeah, and even like with the Love Island thing, you kind of look back on the past seasons of the show and you forget that people are going on to look for love. Like, it actually, that's the premise of the show, but it's become something much bigger than that. Like, people are going on watching seasons before, trying to hopefully win the love of the public so that they can have a career far beyond the television show,
Yeah. And some people have done that in the past. Like, some people, like, have you one Jennifer Zamparelli, who does Brendan and Bernard, or what's that, Brendan or
I know
show, Bridget and Eamon,
yeah.
And she's done other hosts and stuff, and she started off in The Apprentice, which is reality TV, and she's made her way, and a lot of people have done that and sort of built a career off that. Yeah, all that kind of stuff, and sort of built a career from themselves for it. But yeah, look, I think, like you said there, I think it's just, people go on that to make their name for themselves, and I think most of them got what they wanted from it.
Yeah, and kind of another topic this last week has been Elliot Page's transition. So Elliot Page, who's previously would have been known as Ellen Page, has come out as transgender. And first of all, congratulations to Elliot. It's been a very brave thing, and it's amazing to look back now at his extensive career, and you kind of realize that you never really know the full story behind a person and their battles. So it's been a really good week in that sense, and very triumphant on his front. And he even issued a statement just in declaration with how much he appreciated the support. But it kind of sparked up the conversation then of the younger generation of transgender individuals, and the conversation really on Twitter was that with Elliot Page going through this battle for years and years now, people are questioning how early one should transition, specifically with the use of chemicals and hormone blockers. The kind of topic of conversation is, how young is too young, to use hormone blockers, particularly because they do disturb the course of natural adolescence. What do you think of this, Sean? This kind of take on the conversation, and you know, about the age of, you know, beginning a transition, you know, with the use of medication or chemicals, particularly, you know, hormone blockers or hormones.
I don't understand like the science behind it. So like I don't know if it's, you know, you have to fully develop before you do it. But I think like some 13-year-olds are more mature than 16-year-olds and are more mature than 19-year-olds. So I think it's like a personal thing. I think younger people are so educated on things, and social media, which probably started off as, you know, designed for 19, 20, 21-year-olds with Bebo, was sort of dropped back to, you know, 16, 17, 18, and it's slowly working itself back to, you know, 12-year-olds on TikTok and all that kind of stuff. So I think people see the world a lot more. So I think as a 12-year-old now, you're a lot more rounded than you probably were when we were growing up. And like that's not hugely a long time ago, but I'd say when we were 12, like I was just getting Facebook and all, whereas now, you know, really young 10, 9 and 8-year-olds have TikTok, so they're seeing a lot more of the world. So your decisions are becoming, you know, if you feel something, it can be a lot more relatable. So look, I wouldn't have an issue. I think it's when parents maybe start thinking they can change, and I think, look, you know, I think the person should be well-rounded in their views and understand the decision they're making or whatever scientifically it means. But, you know, I think if someone wants to do it, you know, I think there probably be an age for different countries where it's, you know, a 12-year-old in America could be more well-rounded than a 9-year-old or a 15-year-old in England. I think it just depends sort of on the situation. But no, I'm not sure about to sort of the intricacies of what it means scientifically for your body and stuff, but I think it's a decision that is probably more personal than sort of making a limit on it or an age on it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with the kind of the personal nature of it. And by the way, I want to correct myself. Elliot Page's pronouns are he and him. I said they, so I just want to clear that up. Yeah, no, the kind of argument, and I saw it a lot on Twitter, was that I think with the consent of a parent, for example, a female who wants to transition into a male, if they were to pursue it chemically, they would take hormone blockers that does irreversible. It has irreversible effects. You know, in their transition to a male. But there's been stories of people transitioning and then transitioning back, you know what I mean? And that's quite common in younger people. And the argument is, you know, this week was that is Elliot Page the kind of poster person for, you know, really, you know, living on his decision and then fully pursuing it in the right way. I don't know, it's a huge conversation, but it's just been it's been interesting. And a lot of people are saying no, there should be a, you know, if it's a lifelong decision, the age should be, you know, 17 or 18, because they still have the rest of their life to you know, live and work on their you know, on themselves and their transition. But just an interesting topic.
Yeah, and I suppose it's one that's probably always increasingly more, you're hearing more about people, and younger people coming out and being more open with their sexuality or their identity. And I think, like I said, I think it's because the world is, you know, it's more information is easily accessible now, like on social media. And I suppose the problem with that is there's a lot of false information, and there's a lot of problems with social media and in terms of some of the negative impacts. But I think that kind of stuff, and people see the world and probably can be a lot more open when they're younger. Like even I think the world has changed even in the last 4 or 5 years, probably when we started secondary school to what it is now. And I think it's probably only going to increase and get more open.
Yeah, I think especially as well, and the point that you made earlier was like you have 8, 9, 10, you know, all the way up to kind of any age. Like the age of watching social media content is much younger now, but the kind of mature level of content that goes out, where the fact that people are now realizing what feelings may mean that people understand why they feel different to other people because they can relate to it on social media. Like, you know, maybe, you know, 15 years ago, if a 9 or 10 year old didn't feel comfortable in their own body and felt like they want to be the other gender, they would be living alone in that kind of mind space. But now, with the help of maybe social media, they can understand why they feel like that, and that they're not the only person in the world that feels like that. So there is a good nature to I suppose social media's input on the situation. But again, I just want to preface this whole conversation with the fact that we at Back Tackle support all kinds of people in any walk of life, any race, any gender, any sexuality. No, we are fully behind any individuality or uniqueness that any person holds. I think you'll agree with me there, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, one that I've been very excited to talk about with yourself, and you are our sport connoisseur here at Back Tackle, and I want your opinion on what happened last night at the PSG Istanbul game. Could you kind of explain what happened, fill us in, and just kind of give us the facts and then your opinion?
Yeah, so PSG were playing Istanbul Basaksehir from Turkey, so France. The game was in Paris, and there was a decision gone against Istanbul, and their assistant coach, Felipe Webb, I think it is, was not happy with the decision. He went up to the fourth official, remonstrated, so he was to get a yellow card. The fourth official called the referee over to let him know that the assistant coach should have been given a yellow, but I think it was there and then he described Webb in a derogatory manner. It actually hasn't come out. There hasn't been an investigation as to what exactly he said. There's a few differing reports, but it was something derogatory anyway. Webb felt, obviously naturally, what you would do in that situation. He remonstrated further. The referee came over to give the assistant coach a warning or a yellow card. Ended up giving a red card because his reactions were over the top in what he deemed before. I presume before the referee knew what Webb was probably arguing about, and then the players started to get involved. There was, people going up to the fourth official asking him what he said. Former Chelsea player, Premier League player, Demba Ba, was kind of at the centre of it. And there's a clip on Twitter where you can hear him saying, asking him why he described him as this black guy, I think is what Demba Ba interpreted the Romanian linesman or the fourth official to say. Yeah. So then there was a lot of to and fro, a lot of talking, and I think it was Demba Ba and his players that wanted to come off the pitch, and Demba Ba was on the bench. So the Istanbul lads walked off the pitch. The PSG guys were talking with the ref, and they walked off, and there was a lot of I think it was a commotion of about 6 or 7 minutes, and the game then about half an hour, 40 minutes had gone, and they were saying the game was going to restart at the top of the hour, so another 20 minutes the cones were put out for a warm-up, and the players never came out and played the second half. So the game was abandoned there, and the second half was going to take place the following day. So a lot's going to come out between now and the podcast, but I think it's going to be a big topic, and it's probably the highest profile game that two sets of players have walked off the pitch, and a lot has been said about it. And England in the past have been subject to racism, and they've stayed on the pitch. And I think it's the first time in a big European game like that where it's the last game of the Champions League group stages for both sides, and they walked off the pitch, which is a huge statement.
Yeah, thanks for that, by the way. Yeah, it is a huge controversy. And honestly, a very progressive move by both sides. I think with the last year, this last year has been mental in all respects, but it's really shone a light on the issue of racism in sport and in the world, as a whole. Obviously, with the tragic death of George Floyd, we again were reminded that racism is still well and truly alive and well in all countries, and
then you had that incident in Millwall where the Millwall players and the Derby players last weekend took the knee. in line with the Black Lives Matter movement, which has been, the knee has been taken in all Premier League games and all Championship games since the restart in June or July or whatever. But it was the first time Millwall had fans back. It was the first weekend that fans were back in the stadium since March. And the Millwall players took the knee along with the Derby players, and the 2,000 Millwall fans that were in the den booed them taking the knee. It was sort of, the statements have come out, and the Millwall supporters were saying it was in line with, the Black Lives Matter movement and maybe their extreme political views and what they did to the Churchill statue and that sort of thing, and rather than anti-racism, which is what they're trying to say. But no, it was quite like disturbing when you saw it, and you kind of realised that, no matter how far you think racism has come on and how the majority of people see, one person's skin colour to another, I think it's going to always have an issue within a certain crop of society.
Yeah, and do you think what happened last night was the right thing to do for both sides to walk off? Because it was an amazing spectacle to see just how much authority that they can hold by walking off. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I think, I would always say it's the right thing to do when it's a section of supporters that are being racist and there's fans in the ground and you have a full house and, someone gets some sort of racist remark, or derogatory remark, whatever it is. But I think there's been cases where there has been racist remarks in the Premier League and players have stayed on. I think when there's a full house there and there's paying customers, I think it's the right thing to do is walk off.
Yeah.
Because it stops the spectacle, and there's 60,000 people in the stadium looking around going, why would you do that? Well, who's the person? And sort of like that witch hunt. Whereas when there's no fans there and it's an official, walking off is probably the right idea. But I think it has more an effect when there's fans in the stadium. I think that's probably when it will be at its, most influential. But I'm sure it's going to have a huge effect for the officials, and I doubt they'll be getting many games coming soon.
Yeah, I think though with when you have fans in the stadium, when you walk off as a team, there's a heightened level of aggression because you know what I mean. For fans, number one, there's a feud, which means that there's a feud between sometimes two. It's normally two sides, especially like there's been issues in English football, where there's been objects thrown onto the fields with, insinuative nature and stuff like that. And it's amazing to watch those clips from over the years. And even with the Say No to Racism campaign as well, like those guys who are subject to racism in English football, a lot of the time, their teammates pat them on the back and they get on with the game. You know what I mean? And sometimes I think that if they walk off, there's kind of a heightened level of aggression where there's going to be a turmoil because the show won't go on, which means fans won't see the rest of the game, and then there's a feud outside of that situation where it's like, not only is there already a rivalry between the two teams, but one of your team members did or said something to one of my team members that stopped me from watching the game. You know, that kind of way.
Yeah, but say if you travelled over to a game, and like you're from America or you're from Southeast Asia or whatever, and you travel to watch a game wherever in the world, and you're watching it 20 minutes in, your dream trip of a lifetime, and the game gets stopped because of racism, or if you've been working 9 to 5 all week and you travel 6 hours on the coach for 15 minutes and there's a racist remark, I think that's when it's at its best, because I think people will start to come to terms with how nonsensical it is that people still have racial views and racial remarks
to say,
and I think, look, it's the same. Like, even if you picture going, now God forbid that there's nothing that has come out about racism in the League of Ireland, but even if you went to a League of Ireland game and you think here, like me travelling into town, and it's only 30-40 minutes in to watch a Bohemians game, and if you see after 15 minutes the game is called off because of something, or like I said, you travel halfway across the world, I think that's when it's probably going to have its most effect as a walk. I still think it's a step in the right direction to walk off the pitch, and especially when there's it's the last game of the group stage, and the game is going to be played on Wednesday, so it's not a huge difference to both sides. But I think it's probably a big statement to world football. And look, it's a huge issue because you look at some of the nations that are playing in the Euros, and they're going to be playing in the European qualifying groups. There's the same countries that have been done for racism in the past, and Ireland have been to Bulgaria where they didn't take the knee, where racism is rife in the Football Association over there. So look, I think it's a major issue, not just in the Western world, but in all parts of society where there's either racism, homophobia, Islamophobia, sectarianism, derogatory remarks, whatever it is. I think there's a huge issue with people not being able to go about their life hassle free, if in that sense.
Yeah. Before we finish up on this topic, this is pretty fresh news, happened last night. What do you think is going to be the step going forward for this incident? What's in your mind? What do you think is going to happen in this case? Because this is going to be bigger than just the actual event that happened last night.
Yeah, I'm not sure too much can be done with it. I think the official will probably get banned indefinitely from doing European games. He'll probably be back in the Romanian league in a couple of weeks refereeing. I think it's different if it's fans and you can section off supporters and really hurt the club's pockets. Look, it's because it's done by an official. I'm not too sure how much will change. In 6 months' time, in a year's time, we'll probably still be talking about issues around, and like I said, discrimination of any kind. So I don't think there's going to be a huge fallout. I think the officials will probably be stepped down from UEFA business, fined, whatever, put back to Romanian football to referee there, I'd imagine. But I think it's still not going to change the face of it, really. And I think people are still going to be going to games in a year, in 6 months' time, with that hatred or whatever it is that's in them. I think, like I said, the biggest thing that can happen is if you go to a game and you spend all your money and you travel and you take a day off work the following day to go to a match, and some thug says something and the players walk off the pitch because they're like, when you're the entertainers or the actors or the singers or whatever you are, I think you don't realize how much control you have. And if someone says something, or there's you think of any sort of industry like that where if you're a TV host and you don't like what someone's saying, well, you've got the ultimate power and you don't.
Well, like the way I put it is, if you're doing a play in the Olympia, right, and someone sitting in a seat just decides while you're performing just to randomly make a comment about your skin color or about your sexual orientation
or your weight or whatever,
I would have no issue as an audience member if the actor walked off and the show, the curtains came down. When I think about it like that now, I 100% would have no issue, and I would love to watch the end of the performance, but I would also love for the statement that the actor could make to be made in the full the full strength they should make it in,
I think people need to know that they're gonna. I think everyone needs to subscribe. The average person who wouldn't dream of saying or doing anything like that, I think they need to understand that it's still very much in society. Whether it's institutionalized or whether it's spare at the moment, I think it's still in people. So if you are like you said there, Mike, if you're at a you're at a game or you're at a concert or you're even in a pub and someone says something to a barman that you kind of know that people are going to have to be confronted about it, and people are going to have to take action against it, rather than everyone just forgetting about it and sitting there and having a pint or sitting there and listening to the singer sing or whatever it is. And I think there needs to be a better tolerance about it. But I think that's sort of like a cultural shift, and it comes from probably comes from the highest powers in the world, making sure their statements are factually correct when speaking about certain things, and like that will probably never happen. And hopefully maybe with the new US president there's less hatred being fueled around. But I think if you're at a sports game and you go to great lengths to get there, and the game, like I said, is called off after 20 minutes, or the person beside you is being thrown out, and there's all the hoo-ha. I think it's probably there, and then the people will start taking a harsher stance on racism and realizing the effects it can have.
Yeah, well, I think we've got a lot out of this conversation, about what happened last night. And again, I think we've really kicked off the show with a few topics that I think, in the eyes of the public, have a lot of views. And again, we stand for absolutely no racism in any walk of life. And I think if you're going to try pull people back from them trying to be the person that they want to be, or even going as far as making a remark about how they are, I think it's one of the lowest blows, and I've no respect for anyone who thinks that is okay. But we're going to lighten the show up a little bit, because we're going to play again another game of 2 news, 1 lie. So cue the intro.
It's time to play 2 news, 1 lie.
Okay, Sean, are you ready?
Yeah.
Do you think, are you confident this week that you're going to go for your second win, 2-0?
Yeah, well, I got it last week. Yeah, I'm confident enough.
I think I'm going to throw you this week.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to hear the first one? So, the UK opened back up last week or this week. And, you can go to a restaurant now, you can have a pint. You just have to have a substantial meal. A lot of hoo-ha about kind of what a substantial meal is. But one guy in the UK this week really stuck it to the higher powers, and he ordered 63 pints of Peroni. He had 12 glasses of Prosecco, and for a substantial meal, he had a single Scotch egg. All right?
Yeah. I know there's a big hoo-ha in the UK about whether a Scotch meal is substantial.
A Scotch egg. Well, that's one of them.
63 Peroni is a bit odd. Go on, I'll have a look.
Don't forget, you have 3 questions at the end, so. And I don't want you to be on your phone or anything, going on the old Google. Keep the head up. We're on Zoom, so. Right. Second one is BBC presenter. Her name is Rita. And she presented the news last week with a cigarette between her fingers while speaking about lockdown. So again, Rita Chakrabarti, I think that's how you pronounce her name, who's a BBC presenter, presented the news last week with like on the news, just with a cigarette between her fingers, talking about lockdown stage 2. Finally, the last story, a 59-year-old Russian man was aged 6 when he wedged a coin up his nose, right? He didn't tell his parents because it was his parents are very strict, so they're really strict. But now, 53 years later, he got that coin removed from his nostrils. It looks absolutely disgusting, but he's coin free. So, Sean, tell me the 2 news and the 1 lie.
Did the Russian man, did he have to get surgery, or how? And could you see it in his nose?
It wasn't visible. Like, if I was looking at you, I wouldn't know the coin was in your nose. And yeah, there was surgery.
Right. I don't know. Was it BBC News night, the normal BBC News?
Yeah, I think it's the main BBC News.
Right. What was the first one? It was
The Scotch egg.
I think 62. Where in the UK was the Scotch egg?
I don't know. See, I'll show you on my phone. You guys won't be able to see this listening, but I write all the news stories in my notes, so
Okay.
I didn't even look about where it was.
Right.
You gonna go for it?
I don't know. I think this is a harder one.
This one is harder.
I think the Russian one is probably true. Right. So I think that's news. And I think, well, like the cigarette, like I doubt that will happen. I mean, you can't go on a TV studio like that. Was she in the studio? Yeah.
Yeah, it was it was basically she was in the studio, sitting at the desk, and she had her arms she had her fingers interlocked, and the cigarette was like this.
Yeah, I'd be a bit surprised. 63 points. And was he on his own, your man, drinking?
Yeah, he was completely on his own. And by the way, I want to say something else about the BBC one. People were memeing on her on Twitter saying when you arrived to the studio late and you've forgotten to have your cigarette. So
Actually, I kind of did see something about that. 63 points is a lot.
And 12 glasses of prosecco.
12 glasses of prosecco for yourself. But the UK are a bit mad. I don't know. The coin one is a bit. Now I think it was a bit far fetched. I said second guessing myself here. I'll just go for one. I'll go for the 63 Peroni.
As the fake one.
Yeah.
I'm afraid you are wrong this week, Sean.
Jesus.
You are wrong.
What was the?
You can even guess again. Like, you haven't won it, but which one do you think is fake now that you know that one was real?
I saw something about the BBC on Twitter. I can't remember what it was, so I'm gonna go with the coins.
Okay, you're wrong again. The fake one was the BBC cigarette thing, but you would have seen something about it. It looked like a cigarette, but it was just a pen.
All right.
All right,
I
so
was wondering. I didn't think it was a cigarette.
your record is 1-1.
1-1.
And that's much like a boxing reference, which I'm gonna segue into right now. And I hope you cover some form of this on Tackling Sport when it actually happens in February, because this is the most bizarre sporting event of all time. Some are saying it's Logan Paul versus Floyd Money Mayweather.
When I saw it, I was like, this is ridiculous. I mean, you think of like. I must say it's probably the same for musicians when they see some celebrity come on and get a record deal and sing, and people have spent their whole life in the music industry trying to get a record deal. I think it's the same with boxing. Like, people have tried their whole lives, to make a living out of boxing, and God knows what's going to happen to them, with dementia and concussion, and it's been proven that sport is a huge tractor of it. So you'd imagine boxing where there's a lot of head injuries and a lot of head punching, it's going to be a problem. So like, when I saw it, I just thought like the amount of money them two are going to make is just
astronomical.
To kind of rip off the sport of boxing and the people of boxing and people who've put their whole lives work into it. I think it just makes a mockery of it. It's like that when musicians get, like I said, bust their whole life, and some TikTok person comes on and gets a record deal. Like, it's like that, and they're no better to the next person. I think it just ruins the whole industry, if you like. And when I saw that, it's just like, Floyd Mayweather doesn't need the money. He's probably one of the richest sports people of all time. He doesn't need the fame, but yet he's still hungry to make that extra money. And like, it's not like, even like some sports you could say when golfers play against celebrities, and it's to kind of grow the game to a wider audience, whereas like, I think this is just boxers trying to make money. It's like, I don't think anyone's going to come away from that fight thinking, yeah, I'm going to get into boxing. That was a really good fight. That was something that was enthralling or anything like that. I don't know what sort of shape your man is in, but I just think it's the KSI fight and all, but I thought it was a bit ridiculous that Sky were kind of showing it. And I mean, it just like I said, kind of makes a mockery of people who spent their lives working towards.
Well, like, a lot of people are saying the same thing, and like I suppose you've come at it with a few angles where it's like the injury thing, mockery of the sport. But like, I can't believe that someone like Floyd Mayweather has agreed to be a part of an event like that. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, like, has he not seen the fights that Logan Paul has had and that even Jake Paul have had? I mean, look, they're creators. They're guys who, much like us, are, they are trying to, well, they've built a platform online, but they've built a platform online, not boxing. They've built a platform online making videos and making content, and now they're coming on, getting huge deals with the likes of, like, Matchroom Boxing and DAZN with Eddie Hearn and stuff. And then when the time comes and they're, actually fighting at these events, I mean, the level of form and class that boxing should come with is just not even close to being there. I mean, you can even see with the way they box, they've no respect for the greats. You know, it's just like, again, like you said, a mockery to the sport. And the worst part about it is, like, I'm not the biggest Mayweather fan, but I also have to appreciate the fact that he's one of the best that ever lived, you know. And now he's gone and done this. It's just like, what's he trying to get out of this? And Logan Paul made a good point. He said, I think he said that if he beats Mayweather, or no, if I don't know how it would work, but it was something like, if Mayweather beats him, then KSI should have a shot with Mayweather or something like that, or if Logan Paul beats Mayweather, then like KSI is technically the best boxer in the world. I forget what the point was, but like it showed just how stupid this event is, and it's going to generate unbelievable amounts of money.
Yeah, like it's, you know, when you see it, like you take someone like Katie Taylor and like the career she's had, and you know, I don't want to say she's earned tuppence, but you think what she could have earned if female boxing was more prominent when she was growing up, and she was sort of the athlete that was, they pushed the change around in London 2012 and Nicola Adams and people like that. And you know, you see, like I said, the money that will be made, and like Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing have made money off the other fight, I think. So, you know, obviously those people that are in the industry are going to piggyback and try and make money off it, whereas I think it's the boxing clubs and, you know, the regional boxing groups and boxing coaches that are probably going to be more sort of, not ashamed, but more disappointed with where the sport's going. And look, people want boxing to grow, and you know, they have a great time at the moment in terms of the British heavyweight division.
Is on fire, like, and Anthony Joshua is the poster boy for the boxing spirit.
And he's fighting Pulev this week, so you know, all the talk is in and around some Mickey Mouse fight. Yeah. But I think that kind of stuff where, you know, you've got one of the greatest, or not the greatest, but one of the most competitive, like I said, British heavyweight divisions at the moment, and there, you know, you still think, could there be more done to grow that? So I think there is a huge issue around everything.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll look forward to seeing how it plays out. I think we've had a really good show here, Sean. We've talked about a lot of different things. We've got a few different weird and you know, kind of unfortunate stuff at the start there with the Istanbul match last night. You know, kind of something that we shouldn't have had to talk about, but it's still going on in the world, and we look forward to seeing how that plays out, and hopefully justice is served. We again extend support to all communities, spreading some good vibes this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. Unlucky Sean with 2 news, 1 lie. Hopefully you'll come back stronger.
Yeah, absolutely.
A triumph over adversity story maybe in 2 weeks' time. But until I think our show in 2 weeks falls on Christmas Day, Sean. That's lovely, isn't it?
Is it?
Christmas Day special.
Like Gavin and Stacey or EastEnders, or one of them where everyone sort of sits
down
and watches.
Let's be the first Mikey and Sean. Right, until then, see you guys.
Bye.